Welcome to Brainstorming America. Ken Rollins here, and we're here with John Merrill. Good to see you, John.
Hey, Ken, great to be with you.
Boy, did you come through a storm up here today?
Not today, but let me tell you, it has been pouring all across the state of Alabama.
If you'd have come from Montgomery, I bet you got some, because I've had it at my house here. We're getting the remnants off the edges of it, and those people are in for some bad storms today as we sit here. God bless them.
Yes, sir.
But good to see you, and I don't wonder where you've been. Normally I'd say where you been, what you've been doing, but I've been keeping up with you. Last time you was out there, you took the world trip with your mama.
Yes, sir.
Something you'll never forget. She'll
Yes, sir.
never forget. And I'm really, really glad to see you doing that. And every time I turn on my Facebook, you're popping up somewhere, either at the University of Alabama. You're doing something that I get to do that I love, and that is announcing ball games.
Oh, yes, sir.
I do the I want to say field of our own. I want to say league of our own.
Yes, sir.
Baseball games here. They're fantastic. Everybody hits a home run. You ever play a game like that where everybody gets a home run?
Well, that's a special bunch of kids out there, and all of them need to hit home runs.
Oh, Lord, they're my buddies too. And I'll tell you this funny little thing was, we're leaving the field one day. I'm up there in the booth all the time making the call, and some of them won't even strike at bat till they hear me call their name.
Right.
And I tell what their batting average is. You know, they just been out here with the Minnesota Twins and all that stuff. So I'm going out one day, and I'm in a wheelchair, and I'm following a group of women and kids. And a little boy said, she asked him what he liked best about it. He said, the man upstairs. Well, when you hear one of your kids say, I like the man upstairs, you know who you're talking about.
Right.
The man upstairs. And she turned around and looked, she said, oh, he said him, and pointed to me. I'm upstairs from where he was.
Right.
But you can think about that. I'm the man upstairs.
Absolutely. That's outstanding.
So if you ever want to say, well, talk to the man upstairs, you did a show with him last week.
That's right.
But it's good to see you as always.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my friend.
And I want to start off, I'm going to shoot some things at you. That's the topics that come up with that today's news stuff is going all over. The people might see it on Fox, or I don't know if CNN do they do news anymore?
It's limited.
There's a lot of opinions.
That's right.
Yeah, but we're not going to do the opinions. We might give you our opinion on some of the news, but we're going to give you the news. So let's go with the news. First thing I want to start off with is something that was in the news. It's the January 6th destruction of documents. Now, we watched for months $300-something million spent of our tax dollars with Liz Cheney and that bunch doing a January 6th investigation. People coming into the insurrections, they called it. I'm going to tell you something. I know, that's like saying I'm going bird hunting without a gun. You know, insurrection, they wasn't ready for an insurrection. That bunch I saw, that was a ragtag bunch of.
That's exactly
when
right.
I see people on the camera, on that Tucker Carlson thing, they were just looking at, in awe. The same thing I'd do.
Sure they were. And you know, that's another thing too, Ken, is people continually talk about the insurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many times I've been in an observation perspective of being able to view something that was ongoing, but if people meant ill and harm to folks, they're destroying property, they're causing chaos everywhere they go. These people were walking, and I'm not excusing what they did, because they didn't do it in an organized way. They were not following the procedures and the policies of a visit to the Capitol. But they weren't trying to cause problems that resulted in the destruction of the statues in Statuary Hall, the ones in the Rotunda. They weren't going in and destroying documents in offices and things like that. You know, the clowns that went in there and sat behind Speaker Pelosi's desk and got behind the lectern, those people they're getting the punishment that they deserve.
Absolutely.
But let's not call it an insurrection, because that's not what it was. It was a disturbance.
I was telling somebody days before, January 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all through there, I knew on Facebook people were saying, let's gather at the nobody. It was saying, and the people that I was observing, I was telling people, there's going to be thousands of people. Trump's going to have the largest crowd he's ever had. but I never heard anybody making threats of attacking. It was always, we're going to go there and we're going to make sure that the process is done properly.
Right.
Well, Trump was being told by this group of people, supposed to be the specialist attorneys or whatever, saying you have the right to do this. If you went back and looked at Stacey Abrams and all the other people that complained about the elections, and Nancy Pelosi and all the others that complained in the past, I remember watching the Congress, Sheila Jackson Lee and all them others refusing to, to go along with the election. So
there's videos all over the internet of Senator Sanders challenging the results from the presidential election in 2016.
Yeah.
That was the most recent example prior to the one that you're talking
But I
about.
think his name was Trump was the reason. This one was different.
That's right.
But it's something to see and hear people call it that. And I seen policemen opening the gates at the start. They come on in. They were going in, and I was looking at that group of people as if it was me, I would be in awe. I've never been inside there. If I'd have been inside, I'd been looking up just like they were. Oh my goodness, they were going on peacefully, and then all of a sudden, we were reading about how they was I saw people breaking windows with their flags.
Sure.
You saw the same thing. But
That's
that
right.
was a minority of people. But if you want to call them insurrectionists, go ahead. But don't call everybody.
That's right.
And that's what it was. That's the biggest waste of our tax dollar I think I've seen alone.
No doubt.
Agree with
And I'm telling you, if you will stay with us, we're going to make sure that you don't want to be a part of an insurrection as we get ready to return for our next segment of Brainstorming America.
True that. Welcome back to Brainstorming America. Ken Rollins here with John Merrill. John, we went to break. We was talking about the January 6th thing. I want to talk about something else that got on my nerve, and I put it on a piece of paper so we could talk about it. And it's the Gold Star mothers that testified before Congress a few weeks ago. Luckily, I was sitting in my recliner at home by myself and my little dog. To see me sit there, I stayed in tears most of the time, listen to those mothers and fathers tell about how their sons and daughters were murdered there at that gate with a bomb. And the explanation was Joe Biden stood on the tarmac as the bodies arrived, looking at his watch, checking his watch, and see if, I got somewhere to be instead of welcome these people home or honor these families. And then they were upset about that. They were upset about one lady mentioned that her son, the autopsy showed he died of a bullet wound. As we all know, we were told it was a bomb.
Right.
So she wants an explanation of that, and she can't get it. They will not give any information, they, meaning the administration, will not give out any information regarding that but Joe Biden said, we did an exceptional job. We did an exceptional job. And where he gets that, and we got 13 Americans died, if it had been 2, why? Why did these people end up?
Well, Ken, look, it's always so disappointing to me when we're talking about things like this. And I remember very distinctly back in 2001 when President George Walker Bush went out to an aircraft carrier and they had a big sign on the ship that said mission accomplished. And they had a press conference, and then people were asking, what did you accomplish in the mission? And there were some victories that were celebrated that particular day, but obviously the war did not end for several years and through another administration. But I do think that it's important to remember this. We've got to make sure that we hold these people accountable. Another thing that I'd like to address just briefly, and Ken, I'd like you to do this, is talking about Gold Star families. We may have a young person that's joining us today for the very first time, or we may have a new viewer that is not really educated in the legalese and the language of the military. Why don't you just take just a couple of minutes and explain to the viewers what a Gold Star family is and why that is something that should be celebrated but also always acknowledged properly.
Gold Star mother, Gold Star father are Gold Star families. It's anyone that's a relative of someone who was killed in the line of duty. And that can be the brother, the sister, the mother, the father. It's the Gold Star family. But most of the time, as we see them, as I've been out speaking to different groups over the years, it's the Gold Star mothers that tear your heart out. They saw their son really proud. When I joined the Army, I mean, you couldn't touch me. I was sparkling gold. I was so proud of my country. I didn't have any, I never heard of Vietnam. I thought that's somewhere on the other side of Ohatchee maybe. But when I got orders to go to Vietnam, that's the first time I'd heard of the country. But I was so proud of that country. And so many of these, I think of these casualties that we get. I used to go to Dover, Delaware, and most people out there know that's been around a lot of years, that's where the remains come. There'd be as many as 1,000 Americans laying there for me to take one home, just one. And I'd take one body, escort it to Florida, South Carolina, whatever, and stay for the burial and then come back and get another. That took me from the battlefields of Vietnam to the burial part to the family. I'm gonna tell you, Vietnam was nothing sometimes compared to watching a mother watching her son go down in that hole in the ground. And sometimes jumping on the casket, jumping onto it literally. And it's something else to see all sides of the war, but to me, to see the commander-in-chief, see, I was under Lyndon Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Richard Nixon.
Yes, sir.
And all that, even John F. Kennedy. But I never seen a president that would stand there and check his watch. That's so demeaning. That's so
disrespectful.
It is. It disrespects everything that person stood for. Can I not wait a couple more minutes till they get off of that airplane? They've just come out of the field.
Well, you know, one of the reasons I mentioned this and I wanted you to introduce about the Gold Star families is because there are a number of families that live in Calhoun County in northeast Alabama that you might be riding up Highway 9 or you might be riding down Highway 78 and you look at a home that's sitting there and there's a giant star that's on that home that's displayed, and you may be wondering, why is that star there? What does that signify? And it's exactly what Kim was talking about. It's a star that's awarded to that family in recognition of the service that that loved one provided for our country, representing that particular family, that community, that county, and our state, and why it's so important to continuously acknowledge those people that made the ultimate sacrifice, and why it's always important to make sure that we give them the proper respect that they're due for sacrificing for our country.
And may see another star, a blue star. We got somebody that's serving, and that's their pride. That this family, this you see, we've got somebody serving this country, and to this day, there's still a lot of pride out there.
Yes, sir.
But these people need to understand what Gold Star. They hear it on television. Gold Star parents, Gold Star parents, Gold Star fathers. What is a real? What does it mean? And it's not a title they look for.
That's exactly right.
The worst thing you can do is have an officer coming up on your porch to ring your doorbell.
No doubt about it, my friend.
Because that's when you become a Gold Star parent,
Yes,
Gold
sir.
Star family.
Yes, sir. Well, we want you to know that we consider you the star of this show because you join us each and every week, and we're always excited to be with you. We got a few other topics we'd like to introduce to you in the final segment of this week's episode of Brainstorming America. We'll see you in just a moment.
Welcome back to Brainstorming. I started to say something else. Welcome back to Brainstorming America with Ken Rollins and John Merrill. And John, before we went to the break, we were talking about Gold Star families. Another topic I'd like us to address is, I don't know how we could answer all this, but something I picked up on the national news. San Diego City Council is worried about their crime they got in their community. So for all the other cities out here, I'm gonna pass this along. That's what we do, we give out good information.
That's right.
And you know what they've come up with? If you're being attacked in your home, a home burglary, or someone's breaking in your garage or your car or whatever, You know what they come up with?
Got to be another outstanding idea from the left
It is,
coast.
man. This is from the San Diego, California, and it says buy air horns.
Oh my God.
You can buy those in any boat shop. Air horns, you can probably get them in Walmart. Air horn, so when the burglar comes through the door, guns a blazing, you blow the horn and tell the neighbors to warn the neighbors. It's not to scare the person coming through the door. Their answer was this would warn the neighbors that there's an attack taking place over at Miss Jones' home. So Miss Jones can blow the horn. That way the neighbors know that you're being attacked. Now
Yeah, and
that's
so
what
the
it's
neighbor
for.
can lock their door. But
Yeah.
you know, I've got another suggestion for you. Instead of the air
Uh-oh.
horn, it's called a 410. And you can bring that out, and you can bring out 22, and you can bring out any number of other arms
Not guns.
that you
Not
might
guns.
be carrying, and that might be helpful to you in your own defense whenever someone is breaking into your home or attempting to cause you harm or attempting to take your property. And whenever you have an opportunity to demonstrate to that particular individual your displeasure with them and what they're actually doing, at that point it's going to make an impression on them that I'm sure they'll never forget.
Well, you know, I saw something on Facebook yesterday. 3 burglars armed to the hilt with their firearms decided to break in on a young woman at 5'4". She had boxes and boxes stacked up in her garage. And her and this other lady were going to go distribute them, so whatever it was. I think it was food product. But anyhow, she was inside her home, had a weapon, and she heard a noise in her carport. She had a doorbell that could see, when it rang over, she could see that there was people outside. And there's debating whether she did the right thing or not. But she came out her house, out of her bedroom where she was safe. She came out of her bedroom into her carport, and the first one she saw, she shot him. The second one she saw run off, she shot at him, hit him, wounded him. The other one, she dropped him dead. So she killed 1, wounded 2, and she's barely big enough to get up to any of them's waist size. She's a little short lady. And her boyfriend or whatever, he was all upset, jerked that pistol away from her. Okay, because there's no bullets left. She said, why did you quit firing? Because you run out of ammo.
Right.
But he jerked on camera, he jerked it away from her. Had to take it away from her. She wasn't going to give it up. She felt like as long as she had that pistol in her hand, she had to scare somebody.
She was
in.
probably still in shock, though,
Probably
because of
so.
what she had just done.
But she didn't want to let go of that gun. He took it away from her and went in the house and hid it in the bedroom. So when the police comes, why is it back in there? And she told him he did it. He put it back in there. And they're looking at him like, you know, what'd you do that for, boy? But anyhow, that was the one you're saying, get you a 22, a 410 and all that stuff. That is the best thing you can do.
No doubt.
And know where you
But
got.
to be properly trained to use a firearm is the most important thing that you can do. There's so many people that talk about how firearms are dangerous, and there's a number of things that are dangerous if they're not used correctly. What we would encourage you to do is to make sure that you interact with local law enforcement for proper training and proper understanding of why you should be using a particular firearm in a particular way. Everybody doesn't have a dad that taught them how to hunt and taught them how to use firearms. Law enforcement is always willing, interested, and most helpful to you whenever you are trying to demonstrate the desire to take one of those instruments and to be able to use it for your own protection and to be able to use it even for recreational use. So take full advantage of that opportunity in your community or in your county so that you can be prepared to defend yourself and you can be prepared to enjoy the use of a weapon that's been prepared for your protection and for your recreation.
One of the best police chiefs in the state of Alabama, probably United States, a fellow you and I know named Bill Partridge.
No doubt.
I was at my house here in Oxford a few years back, 2 or 3 years ago, and I I had a guy doing some work at my house under my carport. I got a camera, and I seen the guy who used to cut my grass years ago coming toward him yelling, and he was wanting some money, and he was high on meth. I couldn't tell all that from the camera, so I go out, and my pistol was in my vehicle. So I opened the door, and I got that pistol, but what I also did, I got me a handful of 38 bullets, because I only got 8 in that pistol, and I might want to shoot more than that, shoot a few targets while I'm out there. But I threw my handful and put a bunch of bullets in my pocket, and I walked around the corner to see what his problem was. So he had a knife. He had a hunting knife, more like a machete, and he was wanting some money. And he was going to get it one way or the other. He'd tried 2 of my neighbors. And so when I had my pistol in my back belt, I pulled it out because I ain't able to fight. So I got to let this do the 38. So if he'd have had a hair on his nose, I'd have touched it, because I had this pistol that close to his nose. I had my angry look on, and I told him what I was going to do if he even blinked. So he dropped his knife, decided to back away. He did. He took off, and I could hear the old muffler going down the road. So I called Bill Partridge on his cell phone, the chief of police of Oxford. My friend, John's friend, and you better not say you're not a friend. And I called Bill, and he answered his cell phone whispering, "I'm teaching a conference in Florence." And I hung up on me. He hung up on me, John. So I dialed him right back, because I know he didn't mean to. And I told him what was wrong. And it wasn't long. He said, "Okay." And then just 3 or 4 minutes, here come a SWAT team. And this guy had done come back.
And we don't want to send a SWAT team to your house. So we're going to ask you to make sure that you join us again next week for the next episode of Brainstorming America.
And the rest of the story.